Welcome in, everyone, to the Everyday Fantasy Football Podcast hosted by myself, Adam Stark, and as always, my boy, Eric Sonnier. What's going on, my guy? Week 1 is upon us. Bills, Rams, like 2 days away, maybe 1 day, depending on when you listen to this, but we're right here.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited. I do have to say one thing real quick. My buddy told me the other day when you said it the first time. My last name is Sonnier. That's it.
Sonnier? Okay.
Sonnier. Just Sonnier.
Sonnier?
Yeah, Sonnier.
I would have never known that.
I forgot to tell you the other day when my buddy was like, "Hey, dude, he just butchered your last name." I was like, "Dude, I forgot to tell him something."
That's great. Yeah. Well, Sonny, yeah, that makes a little more sense. Well, good to know now. So I won't butcher it anymore. All right. Lot to talk about today. Some news, some not so much news. We're going to be doing some guys who we think are going to be starts, guys who we think that should be sits, breaking down the Bills-Rams game, all sorts of good stuff. But first, let's just dive right into it. Dameon Pierce named the starter. Him and Trubisky were kind of named the starter both on the same day. So any of these guys, you change your stock in them. Does Dameon Pierce get a bump because he's named the starter, or is it just, you were expecting this?
I think last time we talked about this, I was already expecting it. I think I told you I drafted Pierce in a couple leagues. I think he's going to be really good. I had David Johnson a couple years ago when he was kind of slowly going, but he was still pretty good. So I can't imagine he won't be better as a rookie coming in fresh.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's going to be great too. They even just cut Marlon Mack from not just the actual team, from the practice squad too. So also, this doesn't tell me that Dameon Pierce is going to be good. This also makes me really concerned about Cam Akers and James Robinson, two other guys that tore their Achilles. So Marlon Mack can't make a practice squad. That's not good news for either of those guys, but we're going to see, because Robinson, he is going to play week 1. Doug Peterson said he will play. Is James Robinson, is he a guy that for me, I was avoiding everywhere? Am I crazy, or are you trying to take a shot on him?
I drafted Robinson not too early in any leagues, but when he was sitting around there in like the 9th to 11th round, I was like, I don't see why not. When he plays the past couple of years, he's been pretty good. For a Jacksonville Jaguar running back, I can't see how Etienne comes in and just takes everything away from him after he coming off an injury himself. I think Etienne is a really good receiver as well, so you can see a lot of him maybe playing some slot and Robinson still getting some work.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I did see a few reports of Doug Peterson saying he wants to get both on the field. And also, if we go back on Doug Peterson's history, think about the Eagles. They never had a bell cow. So it's not going to be Etienne, being this bell cow RB1, even if, they're easing James Robinson in. I think week 1 will probably be the only week where we really see Etienne as a bell cow, unless Etienne just goes crazy and is first round running back talent in which he was drafted. So you never know. Some other guys that did make it back on the practice field: Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Miles Sanders, Drake London, and Russell Gage. They all returned back to practice. So that was huge. All these guys were just kind of having lingering injuries, not really appeared in practice. We didn't really know what was going on. So did you have any, type of deep down concern for any of these guys? Were you scared about any of them? Or were you pretty confident that they'd show out, week 1 eventually?
Most of them I kind of liked already. I didn't really like Miles Sanders to begin with. I think he's got a lot going on over there. I wasn't really ever a fan of him. And Russell Gage, it seems like I liked him at first, and then they signed Julio, and I'm just like, man, is there gonna be enough work to go around? But other than that, I was kind of drafting Waddle and Higgins and London like the normal.
Yeah, it was weird because Waddle was probably the weirdest out of all of them, just because he missed 2 weeks of practice, had some leg wraps, and they wouldn't say anything, and now he's back. So you're like, okay, all right. So take what it is. He's probably should be fine, but weird stuff going on in Miami. Good to see.
Probably weren't drafting him too high anyway, with Tyreek Hill being over there now.
Exactly. Sterling Shepard, he is also set to play week 1, which is pretty huge. Another guy that blew his Achilles. So honestly, this might tell me that maybe that Achilles injuries aren't what they used to be. We saw what happened with ACLs and MCLs. It's kind of you can easily come back from it. It's not a death sentence in which, 5-10 years ago when a running back wide receiver blew his ACL, it was, game over, might as well retire. But once, Adrian Peterson went off for a 2,000-yard season after tearing his ACL, I think people, realized not just him being a freak of nature, but the medicine, the rehabilitation, all the stuff was just a little bit better. So you never know with Achilles.
Agreed. I mean, like you said, Cam Akers came back within the same year. He didn't look
Exactly,
wonderful,
yeah.
but that was only off of 2 games, so you never know what he's going to look like.
Just to see him come back was like pretty shocking. So you never know. Hopefully, it would be sweet to have like all injuries, just like no injury unless it was, spinal or neck or something like that, be a season or career ender. So hopefully in medicine advances, it keeps advancing. But any other news and notes that I missed, or is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I think the Fournette thing, I don't know if that's too much of breaking news. They're saying he might get a smaller workload, but I feel like all teams kind of say that about their running back, right? I mean, I feel like the Steelers just said that about Najee. The Fournette's kind of saying that because, I mean, he looked kind of thick a couple weeks ago, but does that really concern you? I mean, does that really ever happen when they say smaller workload?
I mean, sometimes it depends on the coach. Like if it's like Pete Carroll talking, I just don't flies one in one ear, out the other. Don't care about what he says. If it's Bruce Arians, he's not. I don't know if he's been one guy to not tell lies, but kind of mess with the media. It wouldn't shock me to see Fournette just have a big workload, but come the second half of the year, I also wouldn't shock me to see Rashaad White or even Keyshawn Vaughn get an opportunity. These guys are still young. They're, mildly invested draft picks. So I think we're going to at least see some Rashaad White, at least him get his opportunity. And then not to mention Leonard Fournette, he isn't the most, healthy at running back. He's kind of injury prone at times. He misses a game or two or, more. So it wouldn't shock me if he missed a few games. And that was like his, break from workload, and Rashaad White, took over. So I get it, but it's not something I'm super concerned about.
They were saying this Rashaad White dude, he's pretty athletic. I was reading. I think he ran like a 4.2 or something. And it's pretty impressive.
We'll see. We will see. Playing the Cowboys. I think is that the Sunday Night Football game? I think so. They got that prime.
I think
time
so.
game.
Just like last year, actually, too.
Yeah, I know. I was having like deja vu. Ironically, man, I won a lot of money on that game last year. CeeDee Lamb and Antonio Brown won me a few bucks, and I was so pissed because I had $100 free bet, and I put it on I think I put on Antonio Brown scoring 2 touchdowns, and I was looking at either him or Gronk because I knew Brady loved them both. And I went with AB, and Gronk ended up getting 2 touchdowns, and it was like, who would want a lot of money? So think of the past. But hey, if you guys are listening now, subscribe to the Fantasy Six Pack podcast. It's where we post all our podcasts, all our episodes. Also, a bunch of other good Fantasy Six Pack episodes and fantasy football and even MLB shows you guys can check out. Give them a subscribe and helps us out as well. Also, you can follow them on Twitter at Fantasy Six Pack, as it's spelled as it sounds, Fantasy SIXPACK. They post great stuff on Twitter. All our content, all their articles, all the stuff up to date, all breaking news. They got it all there. So, Eric, you ready to do some Bills-Rams breakdown? And before we get into it, who do you got, Bills or the Rams? Because these are pretty good teams.
They are both really good. I think I'm going to go Bills this time. Josh Allen, man, he's ready to prove something. I think he wants that MVP this year, man. Stafford got that elbow injury. I think it's the Bills' year this year.
Yeah, I agree, man. The Bills, I also think they're the hungriest team in the NFL. They got bounced out in that super tough Chiefs loss where they looked so good. And you felt like the Bills were finally going to turn the corner, get back to the Super Bowl, erase these 4 Super Bowl Jim Kelly era and on to the Josh Allen era. And all of a sudden, Pat Mahomes works his magic, and I don't know, all that coverage on how Tyreek had that little slant and Kelsey did his thing, and they kind of drew up their own plays, and they only rushed 3 on Mahomes and all. But the Bills, I think they are truly the team that, knows they're one of the best and wants to be one of the best at the same time. So not a lot of teams right now have that in them. The Bengals, I would toss them out because, Super Bowl losers, always got to toss up those guys. But the Rams, I think they're going to be coming in off a Super Bowl high, trying to coast in, It's also their, Super Bowl banner dropping or whatever. So they're going to have that on their mind, the ceremony, all that good stuff. And they just might not be as focused and as sharp as the Bills, who, are going to be hungry. And I think we see the Gabe Davis breakout too, No?
No, I like it. I like it all. I did see though that might have a little hiccup. I think Tre'Davious White. I don't think he's ready to go yet. Which I mean, why would he be? I think he hurt his ACL pretty late last
Yeah.
year. So I mean, the Rams have nothing but weapons, and without their best cornerback, I mean, I can just predict that Cooper Kupp's probably going to just go absolutely off like always. And now they got Allen Robinson too, though. So I think it's going to be one of those Chiefs Rams games from a couple years ago when they was like, what was it, like 50 to
That's
40 something? Like it's going to be
yeah.
ridiculous. I would take that over if I was a betting man.
I know, dude. Yeah, the over-under right now it's set at 52.5, which is, respectably high, But the Bills have shown they could score and score and score and hang with anyone. So, granted this game, if it's like 17.5, come second half, it wouldn't shock me to see these Rams players get tired because, Aaron Donald, he's not in his young prime days. Bobby Wagner, they're not in their young prime days. Granted, they're still elite studs and can hang, but getting down to those last, fourth quarter where Josh Allen could put up 3 touchdowns if, he gets the ball enough. So I think we are going to see a lot of scoring, a lot of, points. The Bills are favored 2.5 points on the road. So that is interesting. You think the Bills cover with that too?
See, that I feel like the 2.5 is way harder than the 52.5. Like 2.5. I mean, that's basically just like picking the winner. I mean, and I just feel like this game's going to go down to the last second, the last drive. And but I think if the Bills win, it will be more than 2.5. So yeah, I think that could happen.
I think they cover as well. I also, if the Bills win, helps my Lions out. Our draft pick gets a little bit better with the Rams starting 0-1. But all in all, the Bills, yeah, they have the weapons in Stephon Diggs. They drafted James Cook. Singletary still looking good. They still have Zach Moss. Of course, Gabe Davis, who, I think the whole world is so eager to see play. It's going to be really interesting if he, all right, Gabe Davis goes out, scores 3 touchdowns. Are you selling him in Dynasty immediately, or do you hold him? 2 to 3 touchdowns.
That's a game. If he comes out and scores 3 touchdowns, then yeah, I probably would sell high on that. I think he still could be good all year long, and he probably will be good. But, I mean, you still have Diggs there, and I think Diggs wants to be there for the rest of his career. Isaiah McKenzie's kind of coming out, balling a little bit. I mean, if he scores 3 touchdowns with the best offense, somebody's going to want to overpay for him. So, yeah, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, too, because he's also, first game of the season. Literally every NFL fan is going to be watching. So all your casual buddies who, maybe you're a casual dynasty player, maybe you're a casual keeper league player, maybe you're just a casual player and, Gabe Davis is your flex. So let Gabe Davis go crazy, maybe send a few things to the group chat, talking him up. And next thing you know, the offers, it could be pouring in. And, if you get a legit, guy where someone's just like trying to overpay, someone offers, Mike Evans because Evans has a bad first week, then I think I'd take that.
Yeah, I agree.
Outside the Bills, over under being 52.5, Bills minus 50, they're 2.5. And Gabe Davis going off. Not a whole lot to be said about this game. Isaiah McKenzie, he is set to play. Sean McDermott said he would be playing. Then I guess the other thing that kind of is big-ish, Allen Robinson finally playing his first game with a legit quarterback. And by legit quarterback, I think quarterback that made, the Pro Bowl. I guess Trubisky did, but do we even count that? So, A-Rob, do you expect, what kind of year do you expect from him? And do you expect him to show it, week 1?
I think A-Rob is probably one of the most talented wide receivers in the league. Like you said, he hasn't really had much to go off of the past couple of years. And he still was one of the best receivers in the leagues before last year. I mean, for the Bears, I think that should just be a complete wash. I mean, it's not like you're getting rid of Justin Fields, A-Rob. I think this year is going to be a really good year for him. I think Cooper Kupp's going to get all the best cornerbacks. So I think A-Rob is just going to be able to just dominate these cornerback twos on pretty much everybody's team.
Yeah, it gets me thinking where I'm like, Allen Robinson, has he ever been, even close to the number 2? Because it feels like everywhere he's been by far the number 1. And granted, the last, few 8 games-ish of his Bears career, he was kind of the number 2 next to Darnell Mooney. But you have to take that with a grain of salt. And with Justin Fields just like had a different chemistry with Mooney. So it's interesting to see him play side by side with Cooper Kupp, an elite star who you can't afford to not put your best corner on him. You can't just put, your everyday, your backup corner, your cornerback too, unless you do have 2 elite cornerbacks. I'm sure there are a couple NFL teams in the league that do, but Cooper Kupp is going to draw a lot of attention. And even if he gets that safety thinking like, all right, I got to watch Cooper Kupp, making sure I watch Cooper Kupp, and then Cooper Kupp burns him for 15 yards. Then he's really thinking about Cooper Kupp. And then it's Allen Robinson for the next, 50-yard touchdown pass. So, yeah, A-Rob is guy.
And it really doesn't even stop there. I mean, you got Tyler Higbee's a talented tight end. Van Jefferson is a fast, nice little receiver. I think the Rams are absolutely loaded, and it's kind of unfair. But yeah, like you said, I just don't see any team being able to just hone in on one of their receivers. So I think that the sky's the limit for the entire offense. If they have an over, I would take it.
I don't know what the Rams team over is, but I will say the Rams do have the hardest schedule in the NFL. So
good.
Could mean something, but I think they will be fine going, forward, especially in fantasy. I think, Robinson, even if they start to lose games, he will, be there in garbage time and, getting legit garbage points. So it could happen in this Bills game in which the Bills just go crazy and they're, up 14 points with 4 minutes left, and the Rams have the ball on the 10-yard line. And they're just, throwing 10-yard, 15-yard, passes to Allen Robinson, Higbee, whoever. So you never know. Any other, Thursday night football comments? I know you're not a big sports bettor, but are you laying any bets for this game?
I sports bet. I just as we talked about earlier, I have the worst luck when it comes to betting. So if anything if anything close, it's gonna go against me. So I kind of try to stay away from it unless they're kind of for sure things or just something for fun. But I'm looking at him right now, and it's looking like anytime touchdown score for Gabriel Davis is actually a pretty good line. I feel like he's going to have to come out and do something.
Yeah.
I like that one. Cooper Kupp's the only one that's in the negative, minus 155. But I think he can get a touchdown. I think Josh Allen plus 160 to score a touchdown. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a steal. I feel like Josh Allen's going to score. And like I said, minus 2.5. So if you combine those, you can get a little parlay out of that for sure.
I like that. Josh Allen, I do have a gut feeling he is going to get in the end zone one way or another, just because, he's Josh Allen, and if he sees, that opening where he knows he can score, he's absolutely going to take it. And that's one reason why I love Josh Allen, because not a lot of quarterbacks, how many times have you seen a wide open, first down, touchdown, where the quarterback probably could run it and they don't? If it's, a slow guy like Matt Ryan or Peyton Manning, or, a mildly fast guy like Big Ben. But we see a lot of guys, don't make that tough run because they don't want to get hit. And Josh Allen, he's just fearless. So hopefully.
Yeah, he's just not one of those guys.
Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite him with a tough hit. But Allen has proved he can take some hard hits. Josh Allen touchdown, I like that. Also, Dawson Knox anytime touchdown. I think he's plus 220. So that, I don't know. I just have a gut feeling on Dawson Knox scoring a touchdown. I know the Rams have some elite linebackers in Bobby Wagner, but I don't know. Dawson Knox just feels like a touchdown monster, and he's a big dude, so he could get there.
I like it.
All right, you ready to talk a little start 6 for week 1? Because there's more than just this Bills-Rams game.
Yes, I'm excited. I've been waiting for this all year.
All right, what do you want? QBs, running backs, wide receivers, or the beloved tight ends first?
Let's go QBs. You got it.
All right. QBs, just toss out. Give me one guy you're looking to start, and why? Why is he a start?
So I think this one's probably going to be a little obvious, but I think Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield both are just starts for me this week. They're playing in their revenge games. Russell's playing the Seahawks, and Baker's playing the Browns. Baker said something pretty profanity. He's ready to go. He's ready to get rid of him. I mean, I think he's selling shirts saying he's about to go off. So I think both of them are going to be smashes. I mean, Browns are kind of good, but the Seahawks are not. So I think, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to be much.
They won't be able to hang. I don't think. I think Jacoby, if he throws, he's been known to throw some interceptions. So if he throws an interception or two or three, next thing you know, the Panthers have some good field position. And we saw what happened last year. They started out 5-0. Granted, they burned and fell to like 7 straight losses, but they started out 5-0. So
yeah, for sure. Obviously, we just talked a lot about this, but the Stafford and Josh Allen. I mean, like we were talking about, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a 4 to 5 touchdowns a game kind of game for each team, and I think they're both probably going to score about 30 points each.
Yeah, Stafford. He's been known to post big week 1 games too. So I really like Stafford. I think he's going to finish at least top 5 quarterback. Also going up against Josh Allen. He's home in the Rams stadium, so he's got that going for him. He's also, granted they lost OBJ and Robert Woods, but they brought in Allen Robinson. So, you got all your guys healthy. Akers is, healthy right now, at least somewhat. So Stafford, I think he's going to light it up. I love those choices, although they're a little obvious, but hey, right. DFS, those are the guys that if you go all in on, this Rams-Bills game and it ends up, being a 49-46 game or 49-45 game, then you could be looking at a, nice ticket. A couple other guys that I have start. 2 guys that I really like. The first, Matt Ryan. He's playing the Texans with his new team, the Colts. I think the Colts, they're going to want to come out, prove something quick. They got elite weapons in Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and then, of course, newly rookie addition Alec Pierce, who has been hyped up quite a bit. A lot of people, are expecting him to have a solid year and come out. So if Alec Pierce is a legit wide receiver too, then, Matt Ryan will have himself quite a few weapons. He's also got Mo Alley Cox, who's just a gigantic tight end, who's, going to be a great red zone presence. So Matt Ryan, I like him. I think, week 1, especially against this Texans team, I don't expect the Texans to, get completely blown out, but I expect them to hang enough to allow the Colts to keep passing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, this is the first year I can actually, kind of like Matt Ryan a little bit.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, he's finally back. He's got some value to himself. It's been like a few years since the the early, not early, but like mid-ish Falcon years.
He was always good for like those late fourth quarter garbage time touchdowns.
He's a great, yeah. And then also Matt Ryan, great streamer quarterback. If you have any, if you're still looking for quarterbacks, I don't know, maybe you drafted Tua and didn't realize that he's got kind of a gauntlet first 3 games. So Tua, one of our sits as well. He's I believe up against the Patriots. I was trying to blank on them, but yes, you never want to play a quarterback against Sir Bill Belichick, who just schemes and schemes and schemes. The Patriots, they have been known to be really a good defensive team, despite never having an elite defender. Even though they always pull one out 3 years later. So I'm sure at the end of the year, they'll have some elite defender. They had, Stephon Gilmore, then JC Jackson, and then, someone this year possibly. So Tua, not a big fan this week, at least. Also another guy, same game, Mac Jones. Not a fan of Mac. I think he's going to need to get into a groove or a bit of a rhythm. Dolphins, they do have a decent defense. They got some solid cornerbacks, some solid safeties. They added the Cowboys cornerback. I forget his name. But anyways, the Dolphins do have a legit defense. They were one of the defenses that were, a little bit hyped up last year, and they kind of just, weren't there. So if they, get it together, Mac Jones could be in for a tough day.
I think that'll be a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I think so too. And also, yeah, we know the Patriots. They beat the Bills last year, running it like I want to say like 37 times or something ridiculous. They only ran it twice or passed it twice, and they beat the Bills.
Yeah, that was the most boring game of all
Yeah,
time.
so Belichick, he knows he can get the job done by just handoff. And if that happens, then that's not the best for Mac Jones. Next, all right, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. What are we feeling?
Here we go, the fun stuff. Here we go. Let's talk about some running backs. Get to the fun
Running
stuff.
backs? Okay. Let's flip the script. Talk a couple sit guys first. Any guys that you're just far out on week 1?
I think it's we keep going back to this Thursday night game, but it's got to be Cam Akers and Henderson. Cam Akers is coming off that horrible injury, that Achilles tear. You never really know how these guys are going to come back. I mean, he's got a full offseason ahead of it now, so he might be okay. Darell Henderson's coming off of a soft tissue issue or whatever they're going to call it, but this game's going to be an absolute shootout. They're going to throw the ball a ton. I just don't see either one of these running backs getting a lot of carries. They might sneak in maybe a passing touchdown or maybe one of those rushing from the ones, but I just don't. I wouldn't go with them this week.
Yeah, and then even if you do, you're playing the Bills, who had a respectable defense and run defense last year, so not going to be the easiest task. Just run right up on them. So I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Stafford's going to really need to throw the ball, and the more it goes back and forth, the more it's just going to be passing and points. So hopefully, knocking on a lot of wood, that game script goes this way and it's not just the lamest game ever, because that has happened. But last year we got a delicious treat in that awesome week 1 game of the Bucs against the Cowboys, in which Brady, I think, won it in the last second or something crazy happened. It was a good game. So yeah, I'm right there with you. Akers and Henderson, both those guys, they also could be eased in. It could, Sean McVay could, know more about them, know their injuries are a little bit, they might just try to get, eased in. So hopefully they do get some, good work, some good touches that we can actually evaluate these guys and they're not really used. But ultimately, I don't expect a whole lot of either. Another pair of running backs that I'm kind of concerned about are, first of all, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel, the Cowboys backs. I know you guys are probably shocked. Any Cowboys fans out there are probably shocked, thinking, no way I'm sitting my boy Zeke. But last year when he played the Bucs, he got absolutely destroyed. I want to say he had like 13 carries for like 50 yards. It was a bad game for Zeke. And a lot of people, question, should I sell Zeke? What should I do with him? And granted, he did finish, I think, as like the RB, 9 or 10 or something decent. He was banged up quite a bit this year, not the best to his ability. So Zeke, it's tough because I think him and Pollard are going to be, splitting carries. And I think Brady and the Bucs are going to come out very similar to last year, throwing touchdowns, passing. And Zeke gaining 2 yards, 3 yards on, little whams up the middle, stretches to the right, stretches to the left. I don't think it's going to do it. So Zeke, I would sit him if you have good options. If you have some other good options at flex or running back, then yes, sit Zeke. But if Zeke, is a clear cut, probably your best option at running back despite any matchup, then play Zeke. Don't listen to me. But Tony Pollard, he's the one I'm truly concerned about. He's a guy that will need to get his upside off of, touches, off of receptions, off of carries, etc. And if the Cowboys are trailing the majority of this game, it's just going to be an air raid, and maybe that's the only thing you could bank on Pollard is him getting, touches off of, receptions. So Tony Pollard is a no-go for me. Zeke, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. The Bucs run defense is top notch. I mean, they have Javonte David, they got Devin White, they got a lot of big hitters up there in the front. So yeah, I would if I could avoid the Cowboys running back situation, that's what I would do this week.
Yeah, Kamara, he faces them twice a year, so you're very familiar with the Bucs.
My boy can catch those, so we ain't worried about it.
Yeah, ironically, the Bucs, they not so much the Bucs. Tom Brady can't beat the Saints. Every time I had so many parlays ruined, Not so many, at least 2 or 3 ruined off of Bucs Saints, because the Bucs always come in as a solid favorite, no matter if they just had lost the game. And yes, sir, they choke, man. Tom Brady, I don't get it, man. Sean Payton owned him something, I don't know. But this year,
you gotta get yourself in that dome, bro. Like it's a different environment when you get up in there and the whole crowd is cheering for the Saints. It's different.
Well, if we're gonna talk stadiums too, another little side tangent. I was watching the Utah-Florida game, and every move the Florida, like any player that did something good, their stadium would erupt. And it was like, wow, this is definitely changing the outcome of this game. This is 100% impacting like players. There's just no way. And sure enough, Utah, what did they do the very last play? They threw an interception. So it's like, there's no way that didn't impact this quarterback with this like loud ass stadium just going berserk in their ears. So
I've heard the Swamp is like that. LSU Stadium is
pretty
loud like that too. So yeah. So like I've been to a couple different stadiums, and it's a different environment. Like I went to it. I'm not trying to talk bad about Atlanta, but I went to Atlanta a couple years ago for the LSU Oklahoma game, and their stadium is just not it, man. They're it's a brand new stadium and they can't fill it. I mean, it makes a huge difference for the team when it's like morale and the yelling.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, especially I'm a Michigan fan too, so the big
you can
tell. It's like sometimes in like Ohio State, you could tell when they get a little rattled, especially last year. Stroud was like hitting, you could see it. So yeah, stadiums, they do make a difference, and I wouldn't be shocked if that was Brady's kryptonite. So we'll see this year. We will really see this year because Saints, they don't have any more Sean Payton or Drew Brees. So the dynamic duo is gone. So we're going to see. But all in all, they got an elite defense, the Bucs do. So Cowboys, little concerned week 1. Let's flip over to a couple of starts. One guy I really like to start. You're only going to be able to start him for a few weeks, so you might as well get him out quick. That's Antonio Gibson. They're playing the Jaguars. The Commanders coming out week 1. They got Carson Wentz. You brought in Jahan Dotson. Granted, Chase Young isn't playing on the defense, so that might help them, in which a little garbage time helps out. Antonio Gibson gets some more receptions. But Brian Robinson, he's not playing week 1, in which he was supposed to all up until a week or so ago. So Antonio Gibson is just thrown back into this RB1 role, in which he has his last chance to win it back. And I don't think, he's got to be thinking, like, if I have 4 phenomenal games, there's no way they will go back to, Brian Robinson being the one, even though it wasn't officially announced. A lot of beat reporters said he's going to be the number 1. He's going to win this job. And all of a sudden he was shot, which was like the craziest thing ever. So Antonio Gibson comes back into the number 1, and he's fighting for his job. So Gibson, even if it's not with the Commanders, he could show that he still has, elite RB1 talent left. And even if he's split in time, it'll still be good for those first 4 weeks. So you got to play him at least week 1. The Jaguars, I don't expect the Jags to really throttle anyone this year. So I think, the Commanders will at least be, if they're losing, it won't be by a whole lot. So Commanders, they should be able to control this game with Antonio Gibson a lot.
I like it. A couple of guys I got. So this will be the first time you ever hear me say anything negative about him. But my a good start for me this week would be Cordarelle Patterson. I don't think the Falcons really have their game plan down with who they're going to run with Tyler Algier. You got Cordarelle Patterson. You got Dameon Williams. I think with the limited options at receiver for the Falcons and how good the Saints defense really is, I think Cordarelle Patterson's going to catch at least 3 or 4 balls. I think he will maybe get a goal line carry or 2. I think he's a good start this week. And my other one, I like Dameon Pierce. I think they're going to show him why they cut Marlon Mack, and they're going to let him go. They're going to let him take the reins. Because, I mean, like I said, just like the Falcons, they don't really have a lot of weapons behind them.
Yeah. Cordarelle Patterson, that's an interesting one, because he's a guy that, I don't know, I kind of just assume, the Saints have a solid defense. So, Hey, if you're giving him a start, that's the golden approval for me.
It's only going to be a 1 or 2 thing. I don't think Cordarelle Patterson will be what he was last year, but I think this first game, while they're figuring it out, I think a lot of dump offs are going to be what they're going to be going to, because I think Saints will create a lot of pressure. I think Lattimore is going to absolutely shut down Drake London. We'll talk about that later. And so it's either going to be Kyle Pitts or Cordarelle Patterson. So pick your poison where you want to go with that one.
I like it. Yeah, honestly, yeah, it does make a little more sense now that you're kind of giving me a little breakdown of it. But one guy that I'm really kind of starting to like, also same game as the Jaguars or as the Commanders, it is Jaguars running back Travis Etienne. Like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be easing James Robinson in week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. But week 1 is going to be the real eased in week. He is going to play. Doug Peterson announced it. So a lot of people might be questioning, oh, crap, what does this mean for my ETN shares? Is he going to be, splitting carries? No, there's no way they will be splitting carries. I'm pretty confident ETN's going to get at least a 70-30, if not more, touch, snap share, whatever. But Travis Etienne, obviously, he knows that, James Robinson is right there with him. He knows he can lose touches to him. So I don't think he'll underestimate him despite coming off an injury. And Travis Etienne against the Commanders, no Chase Young, like I mentioned. Both these teams, I don't think will do a whole lot. Etienne, I think, is a solid play for, your RB2s, high upside flex guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Etienne, is he a guy that do you have any shares of Etienne or?
I actually don't. So the way we do it out here, I'm in a couple leagues with the same kind of guys, and this one guy absolutely has to have Etienne on his team. There's no getting around it. He gets him in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and I'm like, man, that's a little too rich for my blood. But I like what you said. He's definitely a good starter. I think the Jaguars are going to struggle this year. And Travis Etienne is kind of gives him like Kamara vibes. He's going to catch a lot of balls, and I think it'll open up the run game for himself a lot.
He's got Trevor Lawrence. That's his boy, from Clemson.
Right,
They never got to play a game last year. I think they only played 1, maybe 2 preseason games last year.
I think they played a half of one. I think he got hurt in the very first one.
Right.
I was actually
right. Yeah, I think he did get hurt in the very first one. That's right. Yeah. And it was like, oh, he got hurt. And the next thing, he was out of the season. So, Etienne, I think him and T-Law could have that little chemistry. And if they do, then that'll definitely give him another bump because the Jaguars' offensive line, I don't think it's the greatest. And if, Trevor Lawrence is, getting collapsed in the pocket, he is definitely going to be either scrambling or dumping it down to Etienne. So,
absolutely.
Give me another guy you like to start this week.
I'm going to go ahead and say it, my boy Javonte Williams. I know we both are into him. I think after last year with the whole 50-50 split thing, I think he's looking to establish himself. A lot of the stuff I've been hearing out of camp is it's like 70-30, 65-45. Javonte Williams is a superior back. I think in comparison to Melvin Gordon, that's not really a knock to Melvin Gordon. I just think Javonte Williams is really that good. They're playing a Seahawks team where I think the Broncos are going to jump out to a really big lead. And I think that's when they're just going to give the ball to Javonte and say, here, take care of the rest of the game for us.
Yeah, I am 100% agreeing with you there. Javonte, he's a beast, man. And honestly, it's only a matter of time until not just the team, but Russell Wilson and just everyone realizes, okay, we have to give this guy 90%, 80% at least or more. Melvin Gordon can't be eaten into a share. He can't do what Javonte Williams can do. Like you're saying, not a knock to Melvin Gordon because honestly, he could probably start on a couple teams in the NFL right now. But Javonte, that dude he's legit. And going against a Seahawks team who are clearly rebuilding, they lost Bobby Wagner. They, cut basically everyone, decent from their defensive line to their cornerbacks to, there's, I guess the only person they have is Jamal Adams. But even him, is safety. He's not going to be able to, be on the front line stopping Javonte Williams. So, coming into the late stretch, I think it's going to be, Javonte Williams getting the carries because obviously they know what Melvin Gordon can do. They know Melvin Gordon's a player. But Javonte Williams, when you're in the 30 to 30 range, and that's the 30-yard line of your own to the 30-yard line of your opponents, I think that's really where Javonte's going to get like his vast majorities because he can break any of those for touchdowns, and Melvin Gordon just might not be able to anymore. So he might get his carries, that 10 zone. So
And he can catch. I mean,
exactly.
last year he had like the highest rate of broken tackles, and he played 50% of the time. Like, I don't know, man. You don't have a young stallion on your bench while you're letting the old man play. You know what I mean? I just don't see how he doesn't just take over completely before the year's over with, especially with how good I think the Broncos are going to be.
And then it's prime time too. So I just feel like there's just something a little extra about that where, we're going to see some like clear cut. This dude has to be the RB1. And, I get why they brought Melvin Gordon back. They brought him back on a solid deal. Gordon wanted to come back to, a championship contending team with his buddy Russell Wilson. So, maybe they're building chemistry in there. And I doubt Javonte Williams is either, not only not afraid of Melvin Gordon, but, hey, this dude could take my job or, worried about him. I think they have good chemistry because Melvin Gordon knows he's like on his last limbs, just looking for a Super Bowl, just looking to have a good season, ready to pass the torch. And Javonte knows he's about to control this backfield from, week 8 and on for however long he wants.
And realistically, they signed Melvin Gordon late. They let him test it out a little
Yeah.
bit. He saw that he wasn't getting paid like he thought he was going to, so he came back to the Broncos, which makes sense. Like you said, they're a Super Bowl contender, but that's why he's on the Broncos still, because they were going to let him go.
Agreed there. Back to a couple guys that I don't like. One guy playing my boys, the Detroit Lions, Miles Sanders, and it's not just him. It's kind of their whole backfield, and this is totally going against like what happened last year because last time we played the Eagles, which was last year, I'm pretty sure Boston Scott and Miles Sanders went for 2 touchdowns each, and Jalen Hurts had a rushing touchdown. There was just like a million rushing touchdowns against the Lions. But Dan Campbell was so upset, so disgusted with that game that he made it a focal point that this will never, ever happen again. And I can guarantee you they have watched this 44-6 blowout, beat down, awful game, a million times to pump themselves up, to realize we can actually beat this team and, get back. So the Lions, it's week 1. They've had the entire offseason to prep. They know who they're going against. Last year, I don't know if they're coming off a bye, maybe not. But regardless, they had 1 week max to prep for, the Eagles. Now they've had as long as, they can think. So Miles Sanders, he's also dealing with the hamstring injuries. He finally returned to practice the other day after missing a couple weeks. So I also like you mentioned a few times before, Kenneth Gainwell. He's not, the worst guy in the world. He still has some upside to him. The coaches, Nick Sirianni, I truly think he doesn't know what he has in Gainwell, so he's trying to figure out as well. He knows what he has in Miles Sanders and Boston Scott, but all in all, Miles Sanders is just a sit for me. We got Big Hutchinson on defensive end, Charles Harris, and we also have the Okoro boys, Aleem McNeil, tons of studs. So Miles Sanders, he is a no-go for me this week.
If Miles Sanders is your running back 1, you probably took that strategy of no wide receiver. I mean, no running backs like we talked about not liking, and you kind of doomed anyway. So you're probably right.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Do we have any guys left over that we're looking to sit or?
I don't. I think we got them all. I mean,
Okay,
Devin Singletary, but I mean, it's kind of on the same spectrum as the Rams running backs.
Yeah. Okay. Jets running backs, I will say, yeah, they until we see someone get that, clear cut role, and it could be Michael Carter. He could just look better these first, 2 weeks. And if that's the case, then you have to realize that Michael Carter is going to be, sticking around, and it's not going to be the Breece Hall show right off the bat. But if Michael Carter struggles these first 2 weeks, then, it's going to be the Breece Hall show. But as of now, I need him to show it. So Jets running backs, I'm kind of worried about it.
Especially the Ravens. The Ravens defense is not slim. I mean, they're pretty stout, especially on the run. So I think that's going to be tough for either one of them.
Exactly, yeah. And then also you could toss in Rashaad Penny and the Seahawks backs if, K9 Kenneth Walker plays, which I don't think he will. So it's going to be Rashaad Penny and Travis Homer and DJ Dallas in the backfield against, Bradley Chubb, an elite Broncos defense, and, an elite Broncos team. So it wouldn't shock me if Penny and the Seahawks were trailing quick, and Penny just couldn't get enough touches to be worthwhile. He is a guy, though, if healthy, is a legit running back. But week 1 against the Broncos, I have a tough time doing it.
Good call. All right, let's do. Give me a couple of tight ends that you like this week.
All right, some tight ends. One guy I like. We keep mentioning this game. Albert O. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his last name. It's actually hilarious because I hear it all the time now when I play Madden, because I have found out the Broncos are my favorite Madden team, and they pronounce Albert O. And how they say it, it's like Albert Okwuegbunam. And like the announcer say it how I would have never imagined it to be pronounced. We'll just put it that way. So I'll just call him Albert O. Anyways, Russell Wilson has always had a great repertoire with his tight ends. Greg Dulcich, the rookie tight end out of UCLA, was put on IR. So Big Albert O has no competition. He's a speedy, guy like Noah Fant. So he can, be explosive, get, big plays. We've seen Russell Wilson dominate with Will Dissly and even like Gerald Everett, bums like that in the past. So if he can do that with those guys, then the sky's the limit with former 3rd-round draft pick Albert O. So I'm liking him. You got any tight ends that you're high on?
I like for these first 11 weeks, I like David Njoku. I think the Browns just paid him a ton of money. He hasn't really showed a lot to deserve that. I think he in the preseason games that I watched, he had like 3 or 4 catches because Jacoby Brissett is just not the greatest quarterback in the world. So he's going to be looking for that tight end dump off, that quick throw over and over again. So I think David Njoku is going to get at least 3 or 4 catches this weekend.
One other reason, you made a great point there. Brissett, yes, he is going to be, panic flustered, looking for that quick dump off. And when you look real quick and you see the biggest guy on the field wearing orange and, brown, you're going to throw it to him. And that's David Njoku. This guy's, gigantic. So
he's big, athletic. He just I just don't think he's come on yet, but the Browns clearly have something. They know they just gave him a ton of money. I think it was like 3 years, $72 million. They're like, we got to get this dude involved if we're going to give him all this money. So I think week 1 is when they come out and show it.
I agree. Another couple guys that I like, Zach Ertz. He is, if he does play week 1, I know he's been banged up a little bit. He's still a little questionable, but if he's good to go week 1, then, start him. Don't think about it. They are going to be without DeAndre Hopkins. They trade away Christian Kirk. Yes, they did bring in Hollywood Brown, but Zach Ertz, he had the most targets for a tight end when he came into Arizona moving forward. So I think it was like weeks 6 to 17 or whatever. But Ertz was absolutely dominant. He was just a complete beast. So Zach Ertz, they're going up against the Chiefs, in which we're, obviously you're going to need to score points. I don't think the Chiefs will be as explosive and, high-powered and fast-scoring as they were last year without Tyreek Hill. But I still think they're going to be, a high-scoring team and pretty explosive. So Zach Ertz, he's a guy I like this week.
I think a sit for me going on the opposite end would be Darren Waller. I mean, I think he came back to practice this week, but it's hard. I mean, obviously if you drafted Darren Waller, you probably did it kind of early, so it feels bad to sit him. But coming off a big injury, he hasn't really practiced that much. They're playing the Chargers. The Chargers defense is really nice. I think if Darren Waller plays, he'll be fine. But I think if you have another option just for this first week, just to make sure he's okay, maybe take a week off from Darren Waller. Like I said, I'm sure David Njoku in deeper leagues is probably available. Maybe look at him. But like I said, I don't know. That injury kind of scares me, especially against a good, fast Chargers defense.
I agree, man. Hamstring injuries, they are difficult. He still is working on this, was supposedly mega biggest tight end contract for a tight end, in which if he does get that, I'll feel a lot better. But if he, doesn't get that and they're playing Sunday, then I'm going to be, a little bit concerned, because that's going to show me that, the Raiders were obviously concerned about his, health. So. Bold take, but I like it. We could also see, Derek Carr just like, hey, best friend Davante Adams, go deep every single play. So you never know with that. And then also you can't factor out Hunter Renfrow being a little, sneaky little guy he is himself. It's kind of, about it for, I guess, the starts. I'll one more sit for, tight ends. Mike Gesicki, he's a guy that you're going to be disappointed with Dolphins fans and, fantasy owners. He's a guy that was phenomenal last year. But if you look at his last 6 games of last year, he was really phased out and kind of just slowed down. And then even this year, you get reports of him talking about, no, I need to get every rep I can get as a blocking tight end because I wasn't one last year and now I am this year. So it's that. And then you have the red flags of, hey, we want to trade this guy. And then you have the other red flags of bringing in Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson, 2 running backs, and, having that Izabuki dude have a solid camp. So it's not looking good for Mike Gesicki. He's a guy that I've just always kind of been concerned about. The Dolphins, who are the Dolphins playing? Patriots.
They're playing the Patriots, yeah.
And as we know, like I mentioned earlier, the Patriots, Belichick, he's good. He knows how to, win divisional games. Not just that, but, take advantage of, not superior quarterbacks. So the Dolphins are home. So it's not going to be, in Foxborough in the deathly, Patriots stadium. But all in all, Mike Gesicki, he's a guy that I think we're going to see a lot of, just Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill for this offense.
Agreed. I think Tua is trying to shut out those haters too and let the ball fly.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's head on over to wide receivers to wrap things up. Give me one guy that you're looking to really start this week.
Let's skip the Rams and Bills. I feel like we've talked a little bit about them. I like Jarvis Landry this week. I know it's going to sound biased. Everything I say about the Saints will be biased, but from a non-fan standpoint, Michael Thomas, he still hasn't practiced. I think he will end up playing, but AJ Terrell, he's not a chump, and this will be Michael Thomas's first game back in almost 2 years. I think Jarvis Landry is going to fit in nicely. If you watch that little preseason game, him and Jameis connected 2 or 3 times on the one drive they played. I think Jarvis Landry will catch about 4 or 5 balls with maybe a touchdown mix in there. Like I said, I love Michael Thomas, and I really do think he'll come back strong. But I mean, it's not like riding a bike. You still got to get out there and get some reps in.
Yeah, that's exactly true, man. And one thing I will say, if we're talking Michael Thomas here, if he, has a slow start, but he's just staying healthy, looking good. If he has a slow start, go watch some Saints tape, listen to our podcast, because our boy Eat will give you the full breakdown. And just, don't be so panic and trigger happy on what, his stats are saying, because he could 100% break out and just become an elite dude week 4, or when they start to play, weaker, cornerback ones.
I mean, his last full season, he was the offensive player of the year. So you gotta respect that a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, Jarvis Landry, I like him as well. Another guy we're just talking about, the Cardinals, and that's Hollywood Brown. He's kind of the only option for Kyler Murray right now. I know they do have Rondale Moore, but they brought in Hollywood. They traded their first rounder to get Kyler's boy. Kyler got a new contract. He's playing with his buddy from Texas A&M or Tech, either or. His old college teammates.
Oklahoma, I think.
Oklahoma. You're right. Why was I thinking? Yeah. Anyways, one of those red schools. Nonetheless, Hollywood Brown, I think he's going to have a great, first week, show that he's still an explosive threat. He's with probably a little bit better passer than Kyler Murray, probably a guy who's going to throw a little bit more than Lamar Jackson would have. He's still likely that top option on the offense. I don't expect James Conner to, have that breakaway ability where he can, just snap off a quick screen pass, touchdown, whatever. And Hollywood Brown, if they're looking for a quick touchdown, he's probably your best option.
Yep, for sure. What about some sits for you?
All right, sits. Yeah, man. DK Metcalf. It's the same reasoning as Drake London. He's going up against an elite cornerback in Patrick Surtain. He had a phenomenal year last year. He just kind of started to blossom into an elite cornerback. And I really think he's going to show out this week 1 on primetime TV against, DK Metcalf. Who wouldn't want to, have a challenge against DK? We saw it last year.
That's a good start.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of what every guy wants to. It's that David versus Goliath, even though Surtain's not that David. He's better. But all in all, I think DK is going to have his hands full. He's got a new quarterback. I don't think the chemistry is going to be there. The only reason you'd be playing DK is for, that touchdown upside where he gets, a couple, touchdowns, or just that explosive, upside in which it's not enough to, warrant a play for a wide receiver unless, your team's not looking the hottest. So DK Metcalf, I am definitely sitting him this week. So give me a Drake London breakdown.
See, like, I feel like receivers are kind of like the easier ones to kind of predict of who to sit. I feel like once you play an elite cornerback, you probably should. If you have other options, you probably shouldn't start that receiver unless they're like Devonte Adams maybe. He seems pretty matchup proof, but like Drake London, let's just say the Falcons don't have any receivers besides Drake London. They have Kyle Pitts. Drake London has to go against Lattimore. Lattimore is a top 10 cornerback. And this is Drake London's first rookie action. Like, I mean, I just don't see him playing that well. You could say the same about like receivers like the other ones we have here, like CeeDee Lamb. They're playing the Bucks. They got Darell. No, they got Carlton Davis. He's pretty nice. I mean, Brandon Cooks. Who do the Texans play? I think they play
Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore, right? So you can't expect these dudes to do very much when they're playing these guys. They might get a good breakout, game like touchdown, like DK did against the Saints last year. But like other than that, you really can't just expect a lot when they're playing these dominant corners.
Yeah. And if we're gonna go talk a couple sit guys, outside of having to face an elite cornerback, the Packers wide receiver group, I'm just not sold yet on anyone. If it's, I know we talked about our boy Dobbs, and Alan Lazard's had some love, and they, drafted Watson early, and they brought in Sammy Watkins. I need to see Rodgers have a connection with someone first for at least 2, maybe more weeks before I go all in. And even if you do have the Packers wide receiver 1 and you don't know it and you miss out on the first 2 weeks, that's okay. You still have the Packers wide receiver 1. But if you roll out Alan Lazard or Dobbs and, your flex spot, your wide receiver 3 spot, and they just, put up a dud, a bust game, it could really lose you a week. And each week you really need to win. So for me, I need to see Rodgers establish a legit connection with a wide receiver. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, so be it. But I need to see that connection first.
If you had to choose one of these Packers receivers to start this week, who's it going to be?
I think I got to go Lazard. Just because he's
for that very reason that you were just talking about, just the connection, right? I mean, he's played with Rodgers before.
And I know Rodgers came out and said, "Oh, I'm having lunch with Romeo Dobbs, and he's my lunch buddy and all that," and that rose him some hype and gave him some boost. But all in all, he's still a rookie, and he's still going to be playing his first game of his NFL career. And I mean, he did play in the preseason, but it's still not the same when you're playing full speed all game, the entire game. So Dobbs, I think he's going to, need to get in the groove a bit, unless he's just, you never know. There are 6th round elite wide receivers that blossom like, Antonio Brown. Not saying Dobbs is going to be Antonio Brown, but it's not impossible.
Absolutely. I'm just glad the ball's back.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up here, give me 1 or 2 last guys that, you're looking to start.
Let's see to start. I like that you got Darnell Mooney down here, man. It's kind of like the same thing as going against with these Falcons. Who else do they have to throw the ball to? I mean, him and Komet. I mean, they're going to be down. They're going to have to throw the ball. These 2 dudes are going to get at least a few catches. If you're stuck in a pinch, Darnell Mooney and Cole Komet are both good options.
Yeah, just that garbage time that they're likely going to have against the 49ers, probably that whole fourth quarter. Like, if this game gets ugly quick, if Fields throws, pick sixes or interceptions, it doesn't hurt Mooney. So it kind of honestly only helps him out. If the 49ers go up big, then they're going to be playing prevent defense, allowing, 10, 15-yard catches inbounds. And, if Mooney gets 5-6 of those, he'll have a solid game. So Mooney, yeah, like you mentioned, who else is Fields going to throw to? We saw it last year when the Bears were getting blown out. Fields was struggling. He would still, throw it to Mooney, and Mooney would come out with, legit wide receiver 1 game. So Mooney, even though they're playing the 49ers and they are solid defense, I still don't have any worries about him.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that should do it for our show today. As always, you guys can check out Fantasy Six Pack. Check out their season passes at fantasy6pack.net. They got you can have access to their Discord, their custom rankings, custom advice, and much, much more. So go check it out at fantasy6pack.net. And go check us out on Twitter at everydayffb. Myself, give me a follow, and then give our boy E a follow at Eric07294. As always, he's posting good fantasy stuff and good Saints stuff as well. So if you're Saints fan, give him a follow.
I will be in Atlanta this weekend. If any listeners are coming to or listening from Atlanta, let me know. Some good spots to go out there. Maybe I'll come drink a couple beers with you guys. And look out Sunday because I talk a lot of shit.
I love it. All right, boys and girls, we will see you